Shalom. Welcome to another podcast. It has been a very long time, and I do apologize for that. But at the same time, I don't, because I've had a lot going on. I've been having to work trying to get a bunch of trees on my property cut up, and as well as taking care of some other issues. But also, Shavuot occurred a couple of weeks ago, so I was taking time out for that as well. And you can probably tell if you're watching on YouTube, I'm very, very tired looking, and I didn't sleep well last night, and I've had a lot of things kind of come on me here. Not sickness necessarily, just a lot of stuff. Let's just put it like that. So if you would, offer up prayers on my behalf, I would be very thankful to you for that. Quick updates before we get into the teaching. First of all, for those of you who are just now joining in, we are not in the middle, but we're a couple of teachings into talking about the difference between what Yeshua taught versus what Jesus taught, and the comparison is one did away with the law, while the other one upheld the law and taught that we should also keep it. And so most of this teaching series is dealing with the misconceptions held by many Christians today, and trying to pretty much just trying to do away with those misconceptions. And we're in today. We're going to be in Mattiyahu or Matthew 5. Other updates. MessianicForums.com is up and running. We have been having we have been having people join here and there, so it's slowly growing, which is good. So, if you want to join in and start a discussion, join in on a discussion, or whatever else, feel free to do so. There's also a free live chat. Me and some friends I've met online, we're listening to something about Jonathan Kahn talking about the 4 blood moons and such. And so as we were listening to this live radio broadcast, I invited them to the chat room that's available on my website and through the forums. And we that's what we used it for. It was live chat. It was 4 of us, 4 or 5 of us, that were just talking about this, all listening. So anytime any of us wanted to chime in and make a comment, we could. So that's available for your use as well. If you want to join in on that, you can find a link to it on michaeldsofair.com, which I'll put here on the screen, and as well as at messianicforums.com near the top of the page. My second book is out. It's called Shalom in Fear, and it is talking about what the godly fear is versus the fear that we're commanded not to have. So you can find that also on my website, as well as my first book, whatever it's called. I am so tired. Oh, Restoring the Path, yeah. Man, I didn't realize I was this tired. I hope I can bring this teaching to you very well today. I'm sure I can, though, because I have the scriptures next to me. I'm trying to think of anything else. I am writing a 3rd book. I've had a lot of good response on Facebook, on facebook.com / Hebraic Perspectives. Talking about, I asked, what are common questions non-Torah keeping believers ask those of you who are Torah keepers? And a lot of you have chimed in and talked a lot about, I get this question a lot, I get asked this question. A lot of people kind of make condescending remarks in this, according to this passage. And, if you want to kind of chime in on that, if you want me to put that question, because what it's going to do, I'm designing the book to where it's not chapter-based, it's not chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, etc., like I have done before. It's going to be based on the questions, and it's kind of done in the form. I have another book. It's on the bookshelf somewhere. That kind of deals with the Israeli-Arab conflict and the history of that. And it's not done in chapter form. It's done dealing with each kind of misconceptions and so on, dealing with that conflict. This book that I'm writing is going to be done in the same pattern. Chapter 1, if you will, so to speak, is a question. It's the header is the question, and then I do a study basically on that question, disbanding the misconception and explaining exactly what the question asks. For example, why do you keep the Torah? And then I go into the passages concerning what Yeshua taught, what Shaul taught, what the Torah and the prophets themselves teach, and so on. Why how do you what do you still believe in grace? Why do you believe in keeping the Torah if you believe in grace, and so on. Those kind of questions. So if you have anything like that, I have a contact me section on my website you can do, or if you want to go join me on Facebook and send me a message there, that would be fine, or comment on the video if you're on YouTube, and I'll try to, depending on how many there are, I'll try to accumulate all these questions, and I've been putting them all into my notes and folders and stuff, and so far I've got a lot of great questions that obviously a lot of Christians who don't keep the Torah do ask. I guess that's it for updates. That took me a long time. So, let's jump into it. Now, before we get into today's teaching, like I said, if you want to go back a few teachings or podcasts, you can, to kind of get a grasp for where we're at, but at the same time, you don't have to, do whatever you want. But what I'm not examining every single word that Yeshua ever spoke, or every action he ever did. I would love to, I really would. And as a matter of fact, what he says here in Matthew 5 is very beautiful things. He starts off by talking about, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the teachable, for they shall inherit the earth, and so on. Very, very beautiful words that he's telling us here. And I recommend pause this and read the whole chapter for yourself if you wish, or just do your own study on it, because it's beautiful. But what we're not dealing with everything that he ever spoke on. What we're dealing with is common misconceptions that are held, and it's this idea that there was Jesus, and he taught according to this way, versus there was Yeshua and he taught according to this way. And I'm trying to kind of clear up the misconception of who he was and what he actually taught and what he actually did and why he did it. So, where we're going to start, I'm actually going to start in verse 13, believe it or not. And I wrote a blog. Again, you can brain freeze. It's excuse me. You can go to my blog section on my website, and I actually wrote a blog entitled "This Little Torah of Mine," and it's talking about what the light is. Now, I'm going to read this, and it's not necessarily a misconception, but I want to kind of touch on this before we get into the part I really want to get into today. Okay, so we're in Mattiyahu, Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 13. You are the salt of the earth, and if the salt has lost its flavor, how shall the earth be salted? The salt is then good for nothing, but to be cast out, and to be trodden underfoot of men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Men do not light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Now, this, like I said, this isn't necessarily a misconception, but I think it should be noted that, as he says that we are the light, and that the light should not be hidden, it should be shown before men, and so on. In that article or blog that I wrote on, again, you can go and read what I talked about. I kind of touch up on a few things about what Scripture says about what the light is, and it actually, if you look in the Scriptures, the light is what the Torah is. I'm going to go to my website real quick and bring that up, and so it kind of gives a new meaning, to when you were a child and you sang "This Little Light of Mine" and so on. Okay, I touch on what I just read, Matthew 5, if you look at Yochanan or John 1, verse 4 and 5, it says, "In him, Yeshua, was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." I go on to explain, if you look in Mishnah, Proverbs 6, it talks about what the light is. If you have any understanding of the Torah, you would see it all over the following passage in Mishnah or Proverbs 6, focusing on the Torah being the light. We read in verse 23, "For this command is a lamp, this teaching is a light, and correction and instruction are the way of life." The surrounding verses in this chapter are full of references to Torah commands, such as coveting a neighbor's wife and honoring your father and mother. According to the proverb, these kinds of teachings are a lamp and a light and the way of life. Where have we heard such things before? What I just read to you in Matthew 5. Tehillim at Psalm 119, verse 105, "Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path," and so on and so on and so on. I get into a lot more detail, but the whole article talks about kind of comparing that the light is the Torah and it is life, and then Yeshua is the life and the light of all mankind, and therefore we, being the light, we show that light. We live according to Torah. That is the light. That is the lamp, His word. So I wanted to kind of shed some light on that. Shed some light. You get that? Haha. That was unintentional. Just one of those things. Okay. I'm cracking myself up. I'm too tired. Okay, so we're going to continue in verse 17 of Matthew 5. This is the part, this is where you start to get a little bit of misconception going on, or misunderstanding, misinterpretation. I'll start reading verse 17. I might continue, I'm not sure. But let's start. Verse 17. "Do not think that I have come to destroy the Torah or the Proverbs, or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill." Now, I want to stop there, and I want to read a note that I made here. Now, what this term "not to destroy" is "bal tashchit," tashchit. You shall not destroy, and this is actually something very talked about in Phariseeism and rabbinical teachings. More notably, something I have not personally studied is something called the Beit Midrashes that the rabbis have, as well as the yeshivas. It talks about not destroying. There's a lot of other stuff surrounding it, and it's talking about like not destroying the land, which is a Torah teaching or instruction when when the Israelites or the Hebrews would when they would besiege a city as instructed by the Almighty. He says not to tear down the trees. If they bear fruit, you can eat of the fruit, but don't tear down the trees, and so on. So, the Pharisees and the rabbis, they kind of went with that, and they kind of added to it, which is a command not to do. But it's called Bal Tashchit, you shall not destroy. But let me read this note real quick. To begin with, it should be known that the references to fulfilling the Torah versus destroying the Torah is actually a common use of Hebrew idiom, still used by rabbis today and the yeshivas. To fulfill the Torah is an idiom, not idiot, idiom, just to clarify, meaning to teach the meaning of the Torah and observe it correctly. That is to fulfill its true meaning. While to destroy the Torah is an idiom, meaning to incorrectly teach the meanings of the Torah and or to violate the Torah. That is to destroy the true meaning of the Torah. Even today in the yeshivas and the Beit Midrashes, rabbis will get into heated debates with one another, pounding a fist on a table declaring you have destroyed the Torah, or give another rabbi a compliment saying you have fulfilled the Torah. So, it should be understood that when Yeshua was saying this particular phrase, he worded it this way, this very specific way, on purpose, so that the surrounding rabbis, the Prushim, the Pharisees, and so on, they would understand what he's saying. I have not come to destroy the Torah. or the prophets. I have come to fulfill. Now, in one sense, you have the idiom side of it, which is that he's saying, I have not come to falsely misrepresent the Torah, to do away with it and so on. I have actually come to teach it properly and that it should be kept properly. That's the idiom side of it, and I very much agree with that. But also, as we know that the Moedim, the feasts of Yehovah, are shadow pictures of things to come. As far as like the spring feast, he came to be our suffering servant. He was crucified. The Pesach, the Passover, placed into the tomb as the Chag HaMatzah, the feast of unleavened bread. The resurrection, as we see in the first fruits. I can't think of the Hebrew word. I'm so tired. And then the giving of the Torah, which was reinstated and written on our hearts, along with the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, in Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost. So these were also fulfillments. Now, I also want to point out, let me keep reading verse 18. Truth I say to you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the Torah, till all be fulfilled. Till all be fulfilled. Now, as Christians, I don't think Christians necessarily come out and just say it this way, but they seem to insinuate very strongly that when he says that he came to fulfill the law, as they say at the Torah, which I think is a bad interpretation. I think it should actually be instruction. But when they say that he came to fulfill the law, he said that they take that to mean that he came to put an end to the law, that he came to do away with it, to bring it to an end, to that, instead of, like for example, instead of keeping the weekly Sabbath, he is our Sabbath. Therefore, you can keep the Sabbath whenever, And that's not at all what he means. Do we find our rest in him? Yes, but remember, he is the Torah. He's the man-made Torah. He is the Word become flesh. Yochanan or John 1:14. He is the embodiment and the perfect example of how we should live our lives. So he kept the weekly Shabbat perfectly according to Torah, not according to the Pharisaic way of understanding it. I keep looking over there. The lens is over here. Sorry. That misconception is that, okay, he is, he's saying that, we should love. That's what the whole Torah is about anyway, so we should love. Well, that doesn't mean that the Torah is done away with. It just means that, we should keep it all the more, because Torah, when you read the instructions found in the Torah, it teaches us how to love our Creator. It teaches us how to love our neighbor, and so on. So, this idea that, to fulfill means end, is completely just wrong, And let me actually look up real quick. I want to get the verbatim definition of the word fulfill. Okay, so what we have here, bring to a completion or reality, achieve or realize something desired, promised, or predicted. To carry out a task, duty, or role as required, pledged, or expected. Now, completion. Does completion mean end? No, it does not. I wish I had thought about this earlier. A glass of water. Let's say it's half full for whatever reason, or half empty, depending on your perspective. You fill that water. Pour the water into the glass, all the way to the top. That glass is now fulfilled. It is complete. Did it come to an end? No, it did not. It's still a glass of water. It can be drank, and so on. The idea here is that he did not come to put an end to it. In fact, he even gave a very specific detail as to if and when the Torah would come to an end, or one jot or one tittle would pass from the Torah, is if heaven and earth were to pass. And several people say this. Look out your window. Heaven and earth are still here. They have not passed. They have not passed away. They have not been destroyed. They have not come to an end. If they are to, it's in the future, way into the future. when the new earth and the new heaven. But even in the millennium, there are prophecies, and I can't quote references right now. If I remember to, if I'm, I might edit this later when I've had a nap. But I'll put up here on the screen a reference, because there are references to prophecies that say that in the millennium, when Yeshua is reigning on the earth, he will require that we actually do keep Torah in the millennium. We will be keeping his laws and commands and mitzvot. Let's continue. Okay, whoever therefore shall break one of the least commandments in the Torah, it's in italics, so that insinuates that in the Torah was not there, but it's, the least of these commandments, and shall teach men to do so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. So, if you're teaching people that you're not supposed to be keeping the seventh-day Sabbath, you will be the least in the kingdom. If you are teaching people not to keep the Moedim, that's Old Testament, that's Jewish stuff, you are the least. You will be the least in the kingdom. If you're teaching people, it's totally fine, to eat pork now and all this other stuff that, the Almighty said was an abomination, but it's clean now, not really. But if you're teaching people that, you are the least in the kingdom, okay? Very mean of me to say, but don't argue with me. Argue with Yeshua. But whoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Are you keeping the Sabbath? Are you teaching others to keep the Sabbath? Are you teaching others to keep the Moedim and keep themselves set apart and holy by not eating profane and abominable meats, and to keep them, just to be holy before His sight? Then you will be called the great in the kingdom. You see how this works. Okay, so, but whoever, I read that. Verse 20, for I say to you that except your righteousness shall exceed that of the sages, the righteousness of the sages, and Prushim, or the Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Now, what does that mean? If you a lot of people look at that and they're like, well, that means we can't even keep it. Nobody can keep it perfectly, except John the Baptist's parents did. Just look that up; they kept it perfectly. Yochanan, the immerser. Anyways, I want to read a note. Michael Rood placed this in his notes. This, by the way, I'm reading the chronological Gospels, the corrected King James Version. He puts a note on that, so this will explain what that actually means. The scribes and the Pharisees taught that you can be forgiven if you break the commandments of the Almighty, but anyone who deliberately violates the Takanot, this oral Torah they had, that's what it is referring to when it talks about the traditions of man. It's the Pharisees' Takanot, most of the time. Of the Pharisees will not see the world to come. Yeshua turns their own pronouncement upon them, declaring to all present that the true standard of righteousness in the kingdom will not permit the scribes and Pharisees to see the kingdom of heaven. So that's what that means. And I don't think the rest of this particular passage is held in misconception. Yeah, so I'm going to stop here. So, what can we take from this this week? The Christian will say that Jesus said that he didn't come to destroy the Torah or the law, but he came to fulfill it. Now, a lot of Christians, and I remember this because I was one growing up, and I argued the same point, is that he did fulfill it when he hung on the cross. And there's a passage that Shaul or Paul talks about how the ordinances and things that were against us were nailed to the cross, and so on. And I might even get into that next week, because I do believe that it deserves attention in light of this. It's just that I don't have much time left on the recorder. But the thing is that the Jesuses, gosh, the Christians will teach that Jesus ended the law when he hung on the cross, and that was the fulfillment of the law. They don't know what that means. It's just something they say, you know. However, those of us who keep the Torah, still to this day, as best as we can, those of us who submit to it to the best of our ability, we uphold that Yeshua didn't do away with the Torah at all. Not even when he hung on the cross. And that's something I think I will save for next week. I will get into that. But the misconception here is that fulfill means to end, put an end to. The completion of the law means that it is no longer a law. You know, but see, this is a poor argument, because if I'm driving on the road and the speed limit is 35 and I keep it at 35, I fulfill the context of the law. The law states that I am not to exceed the speed limit of 35. So if I drive at or just under 35 miles an hour, I am fulfilling the statute, basically, that I'm to keep within those bounds. Does that mean that the next time I drive down that road that the law was done away with, and because I completed it? Not at all. You know, it's still going to be the law. But if I exceed 35, let's say I get up to 45, 55, let's be wild, I have sinned against that law. I broke that law. And, you know, a police officer pulls me over, you know, and gives me a ticket and says, you know, you are to pay this fine or appear in court by this date. You know, whatever. So what happens is, let's say I go to court, you know, and I'm talking to the judge, and the judge says, you know, you were found guilty of sinning against the law, which states that you were not to exceed 35 miles per hour in such and such road. So, you know, you owe this fine. Now, the idea is that Yeshua comes in and he pays that debt off. He says, I will pay the debt for him, and therefore this mark against him will be forgiven. I know some states don't forgive. But in this case, you know, he's saying, forgive him, I'll pay his debt, or his fine. And so the judge agrees to this. Now here's the point that I think many Christians miss out on. When let's say, you know, I'm the one who was speeding. Let's say that the judge agrees. He says, okay, I will accept your payment on his behalf, and I will forgive him of exceeding, you know, what the law stipulates. Does that mean then that I'm free to break that law? Was that law done away with? No, it wasn't. If I go back down that road again, I still have to obey the law that requires that I stay at or below 35 miles per hour. That law is still there. Okay? And if I break it again, I'll get in trouble again. Yeshua will have to help me out again. But that's the point that I think that many Christians are missing, is that people are trying their best to do away with the law because it's just plain inconvenient. They want to eat pork sandwiches. They really want to, you know. And I think realistically, deep down, everyone knows that, you know, you know, it's still an abomination. They still know that the laws, the commands in the Torah still stand today. The problem is, like with many atheists, they know God exists. You know, they know. There's, you know, they know. But the problem is, and they would never admit this unless they came to their senses, is that it's just too inconvenient. And the story of a God who would let you do whatever you want, and forgive you if, you know, you do something that he doesn't like, but he's not really going to punish you. He'll forgive you, you know, it's fine. And so on. You know, that's like a free pass. You know, everyone loves a free ride. Go to a theme park. Hey, free roller coasters. Okay, yeah, cool. It's the idea of they just want a free pass. They don't want to have anything required of them. And I'm not saying that you are required to keep the law in order to be saved. That is not the truth. The truth is that because you are saved, you will keep the law. If you are a law-abiding citizen, you'll keep the law. You know, but if you're a criminal, you will be lawless. You will not keep the law. That's the whole point. I'm exceeding 30 minutes, so I will say shalom to you. Thank you very much for tuning in, downloading this podcast. So I'm hoping that nothing will catch my attention. I still have trees to chop and things to do around here, and hopefully sleep to be had. So, you know, I try my best to keep the podcast going every week to the best of my ability. But I do greatly apologize if I miss a week, because I feel bad when I do, and if and when I do. So please say a prayer for me. I could greatly use the help of the Almighty in several areas of my life, and not just for me, my whole family, my wife, my child. Please say a prayer for us, and you know the Almighty, He knows our need, and I thank you for loving us enough to, at the very least, just say a prayer. So, shalom, and I hope this teaching helped you, and it will help you help others. But more so that through your obedience to Yeshua's words and the Torah of our Father and Creator, He can and will be exalted. And we can find a place before Him as His child. His loving child, and just a servant that He is well pleased with. Shalom. Tod Rabba. Thank you very much. Be blessed.